In 1990, one of the biggest fast food chains on earth quietly changed a single ingredient, and millions of people swear their food never tasted the same again. Not the recipe, not the menu, just one hidden thing most customers never even saw. Yet older generations still insist the burgers, the fries, the shakes from decades ago hit different in a way today's versions simply can't match. Some call it pure nostalgia. Others say something real was lost. But the truth behind that vanished flavor is stranger than anyone expects, and it starts with the change nobody noticed. For decades, people have argued about it at dinner tables, in comment sections, and in long online threads that refuse to die. The claim is always the same. Fast food used to taste better. The fries were crispier, the burgers were juicier, and somehow even the smell hitting you in the parking lot felt more intense. To younger people, it sounds like grandparents romanticizing the past. But the more you dig into what actually happened behind the counter, the more you realize this isn't just memory playing tricks. Real things changed. Ingredients changed. Cooking methods changed. And the reasons why are tangled up in health scares, corporate budgets, and one fryer full of something most chains abandoned forever. And the first piece of the puzzle, the one that started it all, is hiding in the most famous fast food item on the planet, the fries. Ask anyone who ate fast food in the 70s or 80s what they miss most, and a huge number of them will say the exact same thing: the fries. They'll tell you the fries back then had a flavor that today's versions just don't have, something rich and almost savory that went far beyond salt and potato. And for once, the nostalgia actually points to something real, because for decades, many of the biggest chains fried their potatoes in beef tallow. That's right, rendered beef fat. It coated the fries in a deep, meaty richness that vegetable oil simply can't replicate. The flavor was bolder, the aroma was stronger. People didn't know why the fries tasted so good. They just knew they did. Then around 1990, everything shifted. A wave of public pressure over saturated fat and cholesterol swept across America, and one determined campaigner spent a fortune running ads accusing major chains of poisoning the public. The pressure worked. To protect their image, the biggest names switched from beef tallow to vegetable oil almost overnight. And while the fries got a healthier reputation, longtime customers immediately noticed something was missing. That signature flavor, the one they'd grown up with, was gone. To this day, people online insist that single change is the reason fries will never taste the same again. But the fries were only the beginning, because the way the food itself was made was about to change too. Long before drive-thrus became speed-obsessed machines, fast food kitchens worked at a very different pace. Back then, a surprising amount of food was actually made closer to the moment you ordered it. Patties were often cooked when you arrived, not pulled from a long holding tray. Buns were toasted fresh. Some items were assembled by hand right in front of you. It wasn't gourmet, but it had a freshness that's hard to fake. The trade-off was time. You waited a little longer, and in return you got food that hadn't been sitting under heat lamps slowly drying out. Over the years, that balance flipped. As chains chased faster service and bigger volume, more and more food shifted to pre-cooked, frozen, and batch-prepared systems designed to push orders out in seconds. The result is the lightning-fast service we have today, but speed came at a cost. Food held in warming trays, reheated, and rushed simply doesn't taste the way freshly made food does. People who remember the slower kitchen swear you could taste the difference, and they're not entirely wrong. There's a reason a burger made to order feels different from one that's been waiting. But the cooking process wasn't the only thing being quietly streamlined. The ingredients hiding inside that food were changing too, and not always for the better. Here's where things start to get a little unsettling. If you compare the ingredient list of a burger from the 80s to one today, you might be surprised by how much longer the modern version can be. As food science advanced and costs climbed, many chains leaned harder into additives, stabilizers, and preservatives designed to extend shelf life, lock in moisture, and keep everything looking perfect under bright lights. Some of these changes were practical. Others were purely about saving money. Cheaper binders, modified starches, and engineered flavorings slowly crept into recipes that once relied on simpler components. The internet loves to exaggerate this part, with viral posts claiming old burgers were somehow 100% pure and modern ones are basically chemistry experiments. The reality is more nuanced. Fast food was never exactly health food, even back then. But there's a real argument that ingredient quality shifted as corporations prioritized consistency and cost over flavor. When you optimize a recipe to survive shipping, freezing, and hours of holding time, you often sacrifice the very things that made it taste good in the first place. And once you understand how much the ingredients were tweaked, the next change makes even more sense because it wasn't just what went into the food, it was how that food was cooked. There's a specific kind of flavor that comes from open flame and direct heat, a smoky, slightly charred taste that's almost impossible to replicate any other way. And in the earlier decades of fast food, more of that flavor made it onto your plate. Grills were often hotter, more hands-on, and less automated. Cooks flipped patties, watched them char, and developed that crispy seared edge people still crave. As chains scaled up, many moved toward automated systems, clamshell grills that cook both sides at once, and standardized timers built for speed and uniformity rather than flavor. The upside is consistency. Every burger comes out nearly identical, no matter who's working the kitchen. The downside is that you lose some of the character. That uneven, slightly charred, freshly grilled taste gets smoothed out into something more predictable and, to a lot of people, more boring. Older customers describe it as the difference between a burger that tastes like it was cooked and one that tastes like it was processed. It's a subtle thing, but subtlety is exactly what nostalgia clings to. And speaking of subtle changes, there's one factor people almost never think about that may have quietly hollowed out the flavor of nearly everything on the menu: the slow, invisible creep of cost cutting. Fast food is, above everything else, a business obsessed with margins. And over the decades, the pressure to shave off every possible cent reshaped the food in ways customers rarely noticed at first. This is where the now famous idea of shrinkflation comes in. Patties got a little thinner. Cheese slices got a little smaller. The amount of sauce, the thickness of the bun, the size of the portion, all of it slowly adjusted downward to protect profits as ingredient prices rose. Individually, these changes were tiny, almost invisible, but stacked together over 20 or 30 years, they add up to a noticeably different product. The burger you remember as big and satisfying might genuinely have been bigger and more generous than its modern descendant. Beyond size, chains also swapped premium ingredients for cheaper alternatives wherever they could get away with it. Lower grade cheeses, reformulated sauces, and modified meat blends crept in gradually enough that most people never consciously registered the downgrade. They just felt that something was off without being able to name it. It's a strange kind of loss, the type you sense more than you see, and it feeds directly into one of the biggest reasons the past tastes so golden in our memories, a reason that has nothing to do with food at all and everything to do with the human brain. Now here's the twist that complicates this entire story, because not all of the difference is real. Some of it lives inside your head. Psychologists have a name for the way we romanticize the past. They call it rosy retrospection. The brain's habit of filtering out the bad and amplifying the good when we look backward. The fast food of your childhood wasn't just food. It was tied to birthday parties, road trips, weekends with family, and a version of life that felt simpler and safer. Those emotions get baked right into the memory of the taste. So when you bite into the same item today as a stressed out adult, it can never compete with the magic of being a carefree kid getting a treat. The flavor isn't just on your tongue. It's wrapped in everything you felt at the time. There's also the simple fact that our taste buds change as we age, dulling over the years, which means the same food genuinely tastes less intense than it did when we were young. So, part of the mystery really is nostalgia and biology playing tricks on us. But here's why this story is so fascinating. It's not only nostalgia. The beef tallow was real. The shrinkflation was real. The ingredient swaps and automated cooking were real. What you're left with is a powerful collision of two truths: a brain that glorifies the past and a fast food industry that genuinely changed the food. And when those two forces combine, you get a flavor that feels lost forever. But the question remains, is it truly gone, or could it ever come back? This is where the story takes an unexpectedly hopeful turn. In recent years, something interesting has been happening. A growing wave of customers has started demanding the very things they feel were taken away: real ingredients, simpler recipes, fresher preparation, and bolder flavors. And some chains are actually listening. There's been a noticeable push toward fresh, never frozen beef, cleaner ingredient lists, and the removal of certain artificial additives, all marketed proudly as a return to quality. In a twist nobody saw coming, even beef tallow has started creeping back into the cultural conversation, with renewed interest in cooking the old-fashioned way. It turns out the flavors people swear by weren't imaginary, and the industry is slowly realizing there's money in giving them back. Whether any of this fully recreates the taste of the past is debatable. You can bring back the tallow, but you can't bring back being 8 years old on a summer afternoon. Still, the fact that the conversation exists at all proves something important. People weren't crazy. They weren't just being sentimental old-timers. They were tasting a real change and refusing to forget it. And that refusal is exactly what makes this whole story matter, because it leads to one final realization about why the food of the past holds such a powerful grip on us. When you step back and look at all of it together, a clear picture finally forms. The mystery of why old fast food tasted better isn't one single answer. It's a stack of them. It's the beef tallow that disappeared in the name of health. It's the freshly cooked food that gave way to frozen, batch-prepared speed. It's the longer ingredient lists, the cheaper substitutions, and the patties that quietly shrank year after year. And it's the automated grills that traded smoky char for flawless consistency. Layer all of that on top of a brain wired to glorify the past and taste buds that fade with time, and you get a flavor that feels almost impossible to recreate. What's remarkable is that the people who insisted things tasted better were right all along, just not for the simple reason they thought. The food really did change, and so did we. Both things are true at once, and that's what makes the memory so haunting. It's the rare case where nostalgia and reality are pointing in the same direction. So the next time an older relative tells you fast food used to taste better, don't roll your eyes. They're remembering something genuine, a moment when an entire industry took a quiet turn and a flavor slipped away so gradually that most people never noticed it leaving. And maybe that's the most fascinating part of all. Sometimes the things we lose aren't taken all at once. They vanish one tiny change at a time until one day we look back and realize a whole era of taste is simply gone. And there you have it. The real reasons fast food from decades ago lives on as a legend. From beef tallow fries to freshly cooked burgers, from shrinking portions to the powerful pull of nostalgia, the food of the past was shaped by forces most people never saw. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden truth behind these vanished flavors, there's plenty more where that came from. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a deep dive into the strange, forgotten stories behind the things we grew up with. Hit that notification bell too, and join us as we dig up more secrets the modern world quietly left behind. Because sometimes the most ordinary memories hide the most surprising truths, and you won't want to miss a single one.